I have certainly seen a shift in the last few years around things that have historically been seen by business as an externality, not their problem, they don't need to consider it, are suddenly being seen very directly as the responsibility of a business. I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about that and maybe give us some examples even of, from the investment side, from those appetites you're seeing in different international markets. What are the pieces that now a business cannot see as an externality that they once could?
I mean, again, if I can sort of zoom the lens out, and you started around, the systemic piece, but I think zooming the lens out is important here insofar as framing that question and more broadly, ESG, very crudely into two buckets, if you like. So you've used words like compliance and externalities and responses to those externalities, and I think that's one large bucket, which is external pressure from all sorts of sources, in some cases internal, around behavior, around the nature of inputs that go into outputs, the outcomes, and then the impacts on society, on the environment, et cetera, et cetera. And so we'll come back to that just to name the second bucket. I think the second bucket is really around deliberate, intentional, either business models or policies within businesses to affect change. And I think it is a really critical distinction because, to be slightly cynical about it, so back to bucket one, there is a lot of frantic cleaning up, in some cases whitewashing, greenwashing, etc., that is very much a response to external pressure. To some extent understandable, to some extent not exactly a bad dynamic. By all means, let's stop dumping whatever into rivers or reduce our emissions, etc., etc. There's the whole piece which we haven't even touched on about how you analyze that, measure it, report it, and so on. But just to, again, sort of declare where I am on all of this, what I would love to see, in addition to that long overdue clearing up piece and reactive business posture to this sort of pressure, is a more active piece, which then also, to my mind, really splits into three buckets, if I may. I mean, one is, stopping doing certain things or withdrawing from certain things. So, what's traditionally known in our sector as do no harm. The other is, if you like, cleaning house. So it's, if you think of an organism or a cell and all of those cells around it, it's how, you deal with your own organism and cells. So, the workers and the conditions and so on and so forth. And then around you, the supply chain, society, etc. And, that's what people crudely may refer to, we've made certain ESG improvements and so on and so forth. The piece that, again, I must confess, I'm most interested in are the active policies, either in the sense of what the business is producing, or the way in which it's engaging with suppliers or consumers or distributors or producers, or bringing in actors into those supply and value chains in a way that drives value. And I think that's where we are still struggling enormously to enlighten the business community that there is inherent commercial value in pursuing these strategies, as opposed to either bucket one of those two, which is the urgent cleanup, and some of the other buckets. So there, I think there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, funnily enough, I was just with a financial institution in Geneva yesterday, and it was a very sort of anodyne, we know this is sort of coming down the pike. We need to look at what we've done in the past and, what we do about this. It's very, very reactive, as opposed to a much more exciting conversation, which is what can our finance do in this realm, and how can it put pain? Not because we want to be seen to be doing that. There is that piece. Fine, take the marketing position around it, but because there's value in it. That's the critical.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And that shift is the piece that I am most interested in business leaders having, which in my mind is really the mindset shift. So there's the piece that, as you said, a lot of people have been talking about this for a long time, but around the impact measurement and management space, the Impact Management Project, now Impact Management Platform, their ABC model of that, initially avoid harm, then how do you benefit stakeholders? How do you contribute to solutions? How do you move up that piece? And like you, I am very much in the camp that I want people to, start with that avoiding harm, begin the process. But the opportunities here, and certainly the components where I would say you actually can see doing good as a competitive edge that your business has been missing, is to dive into this fully and actually do that work to grapple with your business model. And I think part of what you're saying is that same piece, that if business leaders can start to move beyond the fear and reactionary response to this and instead see that opportunity, there's incredible things that can happen.